Were you aware of Hunter Biden's role as on the advisory board of that company, Burisma Holdings, the Ukrainian energy holdings company? And, did you discuss it with him?
So I don't have any contemporaneous recollection of that, of the company or that issue.
Or the fact that Hunter Biden was working in Ukraine, had been put on the board of this company.
Not something I remember at the time.
Right.
I think during the most of the period in question, I was at the State Department as Deputy Secretary of State. And what I do know is this. The Vice President was the point person on Ukraine, and he was carrying out the policy of the United States government, a policy that was established through the normal interagency process with multiple agencies, to include the State Department, the Treasury Department, the Commerce Department, the Defense Department, you name it, all weighing in, and a policy to combat corruption in Ukraine, because we saw it as the poison that was eating away at Ukraine's democracy from within. The Russians were eating at it from without. Corruption was eating at it from within. And it was the policy of not just the United States government, but the policy of all of our closest allies who were working in support of Ukraine: France, Germany, the United Kingdom. It was the policy of the European Union. It was the policy of the IMF. And the person who was the biggest obstacle to actually fighting corruption effectively and to Ukraine's democratic advancement was the very person charged with fighting corruption, the Prosecutor General, Mr. Shokin.
Right.
And so it made a good deal of sense for all of the countries who were trying to support Ukraine to convince the Ukrainians that this guy needed to go, and that's what the Vice President did.
But that said, it has been reported that there were concerns within the State Department about the optics of having the Vice President's son serving on this board of this company while the Vice President was the point person for Ukraine.
Look,
do you acknowledge that the optics of this were troubling?
Michael, here's what's happening. The President of the United States is throwing up as much discredited dirt as he can find,
right, and
hoping that something sticks. And even if it doesn't stick, what's happening is exactly what's happening in our conversation, which it's compelling reporters, the journalists, the media, to talk about it. And all of a sudden, they're talking about discredited allegations about the Vice President. People hear allegations, they hear corruption. Right. I'm not going to play that game. That's exactly what the president wants.
I mean, look, if you watch Fox News at night, which some of us do to sort of understand the political environment we're living in, this is the constant drumbeat. Yeah. And yes, there has been no evidence that has been put forward that shows the Vice President was acting in order to benefit his son's company. But
let me add to that.
But that
not only no evidence, but it has been demonstrably shown to be a lie. What irks me, among other things, is you'll see reports and they'll rightly say this has been unsubstantiated. It's not just unsubstantiated; it has been affirmatively debunked by virtually every leading media organization.
It has been affirmatively debunked that the Vice President was acting in order to benefit his son's company. But the question I asked is about the optics of this, because a conflict of interest, as you know, is often about the appearance of conflict of interest. That's what we have ethics laws for, to avoid appearances of conflict of interest. Wasn't it an appearance of conflict for that relationship to take place while the Vice President was the point person on Ukraine?
People will have to make their judgments about that. All that I can speak to is what the Vice President did, and what he did was to carry out very effectively, I might add, the policy of the United States government and the policy of our closest allies when it came to Ukraine.
If you were aware of the relationship at the time, would you have advised him to tell his son to get off the board of that company?
That's a rear-looking hypothetical. I don't answer forward-looking hypotheticals. I'm not going to answer rear-looking hypotheticals.
Okay. We should point out that you are the foreign policy advisor to the Biden campaign. Right.